Our
That's the
office
perfect
is
start.
answering.
No, that's good. Okay. All right, we are here today with everybody, the whole team that I work with when I try to do my transactions. So let's introduce ourselves. We'll start with you, Ashley.
I'm Ashley with Southern Heritage Title.
I'm Sarah of Nexa Lending.
I'm Robin from Southern Heritage Title. I'm an attorney and a title agent.
I'm Corey with Goosehead Insurance. I'm an account executive.
This right here. Oh, let me move my coffee. This is Greg from Orgova Home Inspection. Say hi, Greg.
Good morning. Greg with Orgova Home Inspections. How are you?
And then I am Brittany Sacco. I'm a realtor with KW at the Lakes, and we want to educate you on what we're doing in our fields, specifically for buying a house, buying a manufactured home, all of that stuff. So I'm going to be honest, originally we wanted to do a manufactured home thing to educate you on all that, but now we want to kind of pivot into first-time home buying, but that also can include this. So let's start with who we start with, which would be Sarah. What is your process in the home buying process?
All right, the home buying process it's easy. You start with a conversation. You should start with your loan officer. Yes, you found your realtor, but you can go shopping without a pre-approval. I'm the one which asks you all the uncomfortable questions about your job history. We'll look at your credit history, of course, with the job, the income, and then from all the products out there, we will actually pick which one will fit you the best, because it makes no sense for me to go over every single program out there available, because it's quite a few. It has grown besides the FHA conventional and USDA and VA. So the application is actually your starting point, so you know what you can buy, but also what program specifically you will qualify for. And then you get that beautiful little pre-approval letter. And a pre-approval letter versus a prequal. A prequel is you tell me all the things, I don't look at nothing, and I will say, cool, based on what you told me, here's how much house you can buy, which is a really, really bad idea, because you didn't prove to me that you make X amount of money, that your credit is this. Like, you can tell me all the things, and then it turns out it's not true, and we will have a really, really bad day. Mm-hmm. A pre-approval is, I want your most recent 30 days pay stub. I want your last 2 years W-2s. If there's a gap, I want an explanation why. We write that down. I want your savings account or checkings account or 401k or whatever you may use for your down payment. If it is cash mattress money, you're not going to buy anything soon. It has to be in a bank, because we can't trace cash.
And that's called seasoning your money, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So and that's very, very important.
62 days. I don't want to see your pay stubs, your bank statements. I want to see your pay stubs.
62 days. Okay,
good
to know.
Because it has to be seasoned for 60 days.
Okay.
So day 62, you can start sending me your bank statements. All of the bank statements, even blank pages, because if it's numbered and you think,
you have to see
I don't have to send you the blank page, the underwriter's gonna go, what's on page 5?
Mm-hmm. And the underwriter will. I probably should have had an underwriter here, because they are vicious and they want nothing more than to not let this go through. So this is why, sorry, I'm jumping in.
No, it's fine.
This is why, as your agent, typically people do come to me first, and that's totally fine. I love that, because let me be your guide to get you to all of these wonderful people, and then say, hey, we need to have this conversation. We need to go out, because you're not going to go to Publix without your credit card, right? What's the point of that? She's our credit card. She's going to tell us how much. And I understand that people, you can have it in your head of, I want to buy $500,000 house. I love that for you, okay? The bank does it. And I'm just being very blunt. I support your dreams. I'm here for that. They might not. Your bank account doesn't support your dreams, okay? So that's why we need to be very honest and have that conversation, because what's going to happen is we're going to go out after you talk to Sarah, and we're going to go look for houses. We're going to do all these things, and then we're going to put an offer, and then we're going to send it over to everybody. We're going to get everybody on the thing. And then all of a sudden we're going to come back and be like, hey, you can't buy the house because you told us about something. And that's kind of a problem. So this is why we're doing step-by-step of first-time home buying, and what the point is, what the point of all of this is, and what you really need to do to understand that like we're not being mean, we're not being bullies, and we're not lying to you, but also please don't lie to us. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Was there anything else that you want? I mean, I know we're gonna keep jumping into everything because like everything's gonna come up, of course.
It's okay, like, like you said, the $500,000 house, even if you bank your funds, your income and whatnot, what we call it is debt to income, if you can afford that.
Mm-hmm.
I will go over the numbers with you. I will tell you estimated monthly payment, which I bother Corey a lot about quotes, or like, hey, how much should that or would the estimate for the insurance be? I'll pull taxes, the whole 9 yards. You might not want to afford that because that payment might be, something you can afford, but you just don't want to afford because you still want to live and you want to go on vacation on the whole 9 yards. So those are the things we do up front before you go out shopping. And I always ask, pick your top 5 before you go shopping, because I will run the numbers for you. I'll pull the taxes. I'll try to get insurance quotes or at least an idea, because some taxes, especially out towards Plant City and Bartow, they are outrageous. They are outrageous. You might not think that they are
New
outrageous.
construction too.
When you
Yep.
are pooling taxes, are you pooling current taxes or are you trying to estimate what they'll be?
I do the tax estimator
Okay.
without homestead exemption. People without homestead exemption. Yes, because I absolutely hate that. When you look on Zillow, they may, if you're lucky, they may pull the taxes off of the property appraiser, but if it's homesteaded, they don't care. They just put in as like, oh, cool, this $300,000 house people have lived in for 40 some years. The taxes are like $1,000 a year. Yeah, they're not going to be.
Right.
I just want to double check. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a reason why you asked that. What was your reason?
Because the taxes are going to increase when you buy a house if it is a house that the value has gone up recently. So it could be that somebody purchased that house in 2020, but we don't know if that value, you got to know if the value's gone up or down. Like Sarah said, hey, the people could have lived there for 40 years and purchased it for $66,000 and you're buying it for $479,000. The taxes are going to increase. And yes. And so I think it's very, very important to be realistic, and that's why it's important to have good people on your team who are going to be realistic about the numbers, because there's a lot of things that you can probably get into and afford, but do you want to have that monthly payment per month? That's the question you want to ask yourself, and working with the right team of professionals that's going to ask you what your true goals are, and not just, oh, hey, I make more money when your loan is higher, or I make more money when you buy a more expensive house. You want people on your team that are going to help you achieve the goal that you actually want, getting into a home that is also not going to make you house poor, so that you can live the life that you want to have. Just because you can afford $5,000 a month mortgage payment doesn't mean that that's something that you want.
Exactly.
And that's something that like I love that you said that, because when we're looking at stuff like I want to have the conversation with you of like, what can you afford? Because I always joke, I'm sassy. I love Wonder Bread. I'm not deviating from that. Okay, that's expensive. Like, and my husband likes a good bread too. It's expensive. So like, why do we want to be house poor? Because we have this big beautiful house, but we can't afford to put anything more than like the cheap bread in there, and I'm not even gonna eat it. Like, that's a waste. So we're not gonna do that stuff. We're gonna have these conversations on purpose. We're gonna make sure that like you can't afford all of the stuff, from just not only just that, but like also the inspection part of it too, because I think that people don't realize that it's kind of a lot of money to get an inspection, and it should be like you're getting what you pay for. So I'm going to pivot for a second, because we talked about the taxes and things like that. We really want to make sure that like when you're making this decision, yes, the neighborhood is important, yes, all of this stuff is important, but so is, again, just make sure you have the right financial decisions going on. I'm trying to think of how to say that, but we really just need to make sure. And the reason why I work the way that I do is because when we have this conversation, we're looking at houses and you're ready to put in an offer. Sarah's already on board. We got this. I'm calling Greg the second that you start getting excited and putting in like, oh, well, my couch is going to go over here and things like that. I'm already calling Greg. The second person I call after Greg is Corey, because I want to make sure that like the insurance makes sense too for you, because I think that people don't understand that not only just with taxes and things, your insurance needs to be covered too. And if you're moving into a place, which I'm going to double check this beforehand, that like has had a sinkhole and things like that, I'm finding out as much information as I possibly can, that we need to understand like that coverage too, and that we can afford that. So I'll talk about my side, which is obviously the house side. It's the fun side in the beginning. And then I do a lot of background work, and then I kind of step back and like all you know, get to do the fun other things. So when we go look at houses, we're looking at, I don't like to do more than 3 houses per day, sometimes 4. And you're going to get agents who will literally take you to 10, 15, 20. That's great. I love that for them. I'm not doing it. I've done it myself before. When we looked for our house, we looked at over 100 houses. It was exhausting. By the 3rd house, and like I'm doing it as an agent, I'm doing it with intention. We didn't remember what the first house even looked like, let alone anything else. So I'm like, clearly I didn't like it because we didn't remember it. But like, you're too tired to even care, and I don't want you to ever get to that point in the process where like you're like, I don't feel like doing this anymore. You know, like that's not what we're trying to do. So we're going to be very, very intentional about, like Sarah had said, pick your first 5, pick your top 5. We're going to look at the pictures. Now, you all have gone out with me and done walkthrough Wednesdays, and I'm sure Greg's going to laugh when I say this because we get catfished a lot from these houses, and they are not what they look like in the pictures. Some of them don't even have driveways. So anyway,
let's not go back to that one, Brittany.
I'm gonna never stop with that one. I'm gonna just keep touching on that one. So we're going to look at these things. We're gonna look at it and at the photos, and then sometimes I'm able to go out and like look at it myself and kind of tell you like, yes, this does fit what you're looking for, or maybe it doesn't. And then what I do is I'm not an inspector. I don't play one on TV, but I will suggest to you that like I'm looking at certain things that could be a bigger issue. And that's where Greg comes in, yes, but I also kind of want to, no offense, Greg, protect you before you call him out and pay for the inspection fee, because I don't want you to have to pay $400 to $700 depending on how big the house is if it's not necessarily, and there is no pass fail inspection, and I want Greg to talk about that, but I don't want you to pay for something that's not going to be of value to you. Like that's just silly to me. I don't know.
Which is definitely a benefit, and so that's something that you want is somebody that's
Yeah.
pre-underwriting for the inspection, pre-underwriting for the insurance, pre-underwriting for the mortgage. You
And
know,
it's
somebody
literally what I'm
that
trying to do.
partners
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
other people. The one thing that we all have in common is that everything overlaps. We
Every single
all
thing.
are a different piece of this puzzle to get the client to closing. And if you're already doing that up front, that's super important for the client, because then whenever I'm calling and telling them that the inspection comes through and that you now have to rewire the house or get a new roof or redo the plumbing, it's not as hard of a conversation because they're already expecting these things.
Yeah.
Or there were no permits on the
Or
roof.
no
There's
permits
no
on
permit.
the
There's no roof, because I've had that before. There's been no roof. So I get a call from the inspector doing that when he's like, did you know that? And I'm like, no, because I didn't climb up on the roof. But like also like we couldn't see because it was a flat roof. So like we're looking for these things. I'm literally trying to do everything in my apps. I know. It's
No
things
roof,
that I've
no
seen.
driveway.
No nothing.
no
like,
insurance.
no house. Right, exactly. My job is to protect you from all of the things. So I understand, and I'm just gonna say this. A lot of people say that you don't need a realtor. I'm gonna go ahead and say they're wrong. Technically, you can just go to title and do the things. You're right. You can do that, but why would you do that when you have somebody literally looking out for your benefit the entire step of the way, and who isn't invested in? I don't want to say I'm not invested in your happiness, because that's not the case. I am very invested in your happiness, but at the same time, I'm thinking more logically while you're thinking more excitedly. And what do we do when we get excited? We forget so much stuff. So I'm still watching for the details of everything while you're watching out for the details of your home. Of again, like where do you want to place stuff? Where's the dishwasher? Where's all of, like I'm looking for more at a deeper level, and that's why we are here to protect you as realtors. That being said, this is how the process usually goes. We find a couple houses we want to go see. We go to them. You can tell me right from the get, and I tell every single person this. If we get to a neighborhood and you're like, I'm not getting out of this car, tell me. That's fine. You can text me. You can keep driving, and I'll follow you. Like I'm all about that too. Like if you're not comfortable, and as a realtor, I can't necessarily tell you that the neighborhood is sus, but I can suggest that we go to a different gas station. And I can also tell you again, like if you're not comfortable, that's totally fine. If we go inside and you're like, oh, like I'm really not liking this, we don't have to see the rest of the house. If you don't like the living room setup, why are we going to look at everything else? Like that's silly. Now there are things that can be changed, and Sarah can help you with that because we can do different loans for that. But again, like if you're a first time home buyer, you're really looking for something that's move-in ready. So that's kind of what we're gonna go for. After we find the house for you and everything else, like I said, I'm already on the phone with Greg. We're getting things set up, and I'm on the phone with the inspector that you're gonna choose. I will always recommend Greg. I've recommended it for my family because he's so detail oriented, and that's what I want, again, to protect you. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is ready when we put in the contract, because once we sign those papers and send them over, I want to say, hey, we have this offer for you. This is the amount. This is what we're asking for in concessions. This is what the timeline is. But also, I have all of these things in the background working right now, so we can close as soon as possible. And for the seller to see that, they're like, well, of course I want to take this offer because it's already ready to go. So, like, that's what I'm trying to do. So, Greg, can you touch on what your part?
Let me get Greg loaded.
Well, we got to get Greg loaded up. All right, Greg, can you tell us? We probably should have just FaceTime him, but it's okay. What your step is after we're under contract? Like we got everything back. We're ready to go. We're under contract. What is your next steps for us?
Well, obviously, we get an inspection scheduled for the client, make all the arrangements to get out there, and then we have to get out and perform that full visual inspection of that home and find if it's in good shape and ready to go, if it's insurance ready, and if there's anything that's going to be either, a stopper from an insurance perspective or getting the closing, of course, or things that the client has concerns about. And then obviously we always have a conversation with the clients to review those inspection findings as well as their agent to give them a good idea and clear picture of our findings and find out what they're comfortable with.
Let me pause you for a second, because you said obviously we have that conversation. Now, I've worked with other inspectors. They don't have that conversation. And that's another reason why I definitely always suggest you and appreciate you, because you have sat down with some of my clients that were first-time home buyers and literally 2 hours of your day after you did the inspection and like talk them through every single piece of what the inspection report says, because the inspection reports can be super, super scary because you have to point out everything that you see. So some of the things that are like red flags and everything else, like, yes, they're red flags, but are they scary or are they meant to be scary? And you handle that very, very well. So I want to thank you for that. And just point out that like not every inspector does that. Like not every real estate team does what we do. That's why we're doing it. But also like it's just very important that you find somebody that does do this stuff. And then I'm sorry, I'm deviating for you, Greg. What is something that you've seen or noticed, especially recently, that is stopping clients or scaring clients? And what do you think we could do to fix it?
Well, first, let me go back to what you just said, Brittany. Not everybody is a car mechanic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when they take their car in and there's something wrong with the car, the air conditioner is not working, they're not going to understand exactly what the mechanic is going to tell them. The only thing that they see is that I have this broken piece of my car and it's going to cost me X amount of dollars to fix it. It's the same thing with home inspections. You have to write these things clearly so that the client can understand them, and the pieces that the client don't understand, you need to explain to them what they are, what it's actually going to take to fix it, and give them some good ideas. You need to recognize the fact that not everybody who reads a home inspection report is going to understand it. And I've seen some home inspection reports out there that, okay, you've got guys who came from the construction industry and the client's looking at a house and they're saying, well, I don't know what a broken lintel is. Explain it to me. So you've got to have those explanations for the client. You've got to make the client understand. And I always go by the foundation that nothing is a major issue. Everything is fixable. It just depends on what they really want to take on, what they're willing to go back to the seller with, and what they actually want to get fixed.
That was great. And one more question for you. A lot of people assume that you can fail a home inspection. And where do you think that comes from? But is that true?
Well, I have to be honest with you, Brittany, thanks for asking that question. That's a term that I hate. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There's no such thing as a failed home inspection. Most of these homes that you're looking at are not new, and things happen over time. It's like anything else. They are going to wear down. Things are going to wear out. So it's not a matter of something failed or the home failed the home inspection. It's things that have a minor deficiency or a defect that needs to be repaired. And once it's repaired, it's good as new. My other favorite terminology that a lot of people throw out there is a clean 4-point. We need a clean 4-point. Well, that's great. Did you fix the plumbing leak that was under the sink? Well, no, we didn't. Well, okay, and then the 4-point's not going to be clean. It's going to reflect. So I'm going off on another term that I just love when people throw out there. It's just a matter of getting these items taken care of. I'm of the belief there's no such thing as a failed home or a failed inspection.
Mhm.
The whole idea of the inspection is to uncover those little defects that need to be taken care of and negotiate to get them fixed.
And I want to bring that up for you too, but I know that you've probably seen some things too that you can explain that, like, for the inspection addendums and the things that we're looking for and everything else. What do you guys see from your end from insurance? Let's start with you from insurance.
So insurance wise, whenever it comes to inspections, my first piece of advice that I tell all realtors and clients is get your inspection over to your insurance agent as soon as possible. Definitely do it while you're in the inspection period, so that way we have an opportunity to review the deficiencies. If there's anything with the report that needs to be addressed prior to closing or within 30 days of closing, so that way you guys have the best opportunity to get it covered by either the seller, or you at least know what's happening once you close on the house, if there's any additional money you guys need to pay out for repairs or whatnot. So that's advice number one. Number two, what happens is you want to make sure that your agent is very well known with their underwriters, with their insurance companies that they write for, and that they're knowledgeable in meeting with their marketing reps, more often than just like once a year. I do, all my underwriters know me by name. But that builds a relationship between the insurance agent and the insurance company. So when there are tougher properties to insure and we need exceptions made, or if your roof doesn't meet the insurance requirements for us to bind a policy, that I can get an exception made for 30 to 60 days after binding for you to have it replaced. That I can get you under contract with a roof that, with one of my vendors that we partner with and know our expectations, are going to give you the material that you need to qualify for the best discount. So that way you can get, everything done within a time frame. So insurance wise, whenever it comes to inspections, it's a make or break thing on our end as far as if we can get you insured or not. One of the biggest things that I run into inspection wise with clients is that I would tell you, hey, this electrical doesn't qualify you for this insurance policy, or hey, this plumbing is a little bit outdated and the insurance company won't accept it. And then I'll have somebody that is a vendor, an electrician, or a plumber, or somebody that I don't partner with, and they'll go out here and tell the client, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'd like to believe that plumbing is going to last forever and ever, like everybody else thinks, but over time things wear and tear and leaks do happen. So plumbing needs to be replaced every once in a while. Wiring needs to be replaced, and if the insurance company isn't going to accept it, then you don't have to replace it, but then you might not qualify for the insurance, which means you don't qualify for the mortgage, which means you don't qualify for your house. So it's a whole merry-go-round of things. So my goal is to get the inspection as soon as possible, have you answers within the first 10 days so you can ask for concessions or any type of repairs or anything on your property within the inspection period. I can get you connected with, vendors of whatever you need to get these things tackled and handled within timeframes I need. And then I work closely with my underwriters, with the 75 carriers that I'm appointed with, to have your policy pushed through or approved, or, figure out what I need to do on my end in order to get you to closing.
So pause really quick, because we were talking about manufactured homes, because that seems to be a big thing out here in Polk County, and I love this. Polybutylene, is that how you say it, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Those types of pipes,
yes.
yeah, thank you. Those types of pipes are going to be an issue. So when we're looking at manufactured homes specifically, they're typically the same for the most part as like a brick and mortar home, a new construction home, things like that. Those are the things that I'm definitely looking for, along with the title,
the hot
plate,
plate,
the hot
and
plate.
the certificate.
Yes. So we are looking for these things, and I know right off the bat if I see that is missing, if I see anything, because title's going to need it, you're going to need it, like everybody needs it. We're writing that in the contract, the addendum, that this is what we want, this is what we need to have done in order for the sale to work. And a lot of people don't understand, because the seller will bully you into saying, you don't need that stuff. Yes, you do. And
I've
guess
lived in
what?
this house for 40 years and
Right.
never had a problem.
Yeah, they've
Did
never
you
had
buy
a
it
problem.
Until you
cash?
buy
Right.
it.
Right. And then even if you're buying cash, like we still want to make sure, like, don't waste your cash on things that they don't need to, to do or whatever. So I want to point out the fact that, like, ask for what you want and ask for what you need to be fixed, because that's very, very important. Go ahead, sir. Sorry. I was thinking about something.
So from the inspection part of things, I'll look at the 4-point, wind mid, and I look at the full report, because I can look at the full report and say, like, well, I see there's a floor missing, or floor covering is what the underwriter calls it. Floor covering. If you have bare concrete or just bare plywood in a mobile home, or just, I've had it.
Yes.
The floor was gone. There was no floor. All right. It won't go for appraisal. An appraiser will take any floor covering, now be that epoxy paint or whatnot, or cheap rug. We don't care if you don't care. That appraiser doesn't care. But those are things that you go back and say, like, oh, well, good sir, where did the carpet go that was in here yesterday?
And fix it.
Yes, please fix it.
Fix it.
So those are things I'll look at, or say, like, hey, this got multiple broken tiles around the toilet in specifically a manufactured home. Or if I've seen it where they had upgraded, had the shower themselves, and they put a cement shower pan in there.
Okay. All right.
And then marble tiles, this thick,
Yeah.
on top of it, and tiled the whole thing. Well, the shower was kind of like doing this thing.
Yeah.
And it was like extra grout in the back, so the shower was kind of like flopping off. So those are things we can see, and the inspector did take pictures from underneath it, saying, like, so the back end of your shower is no longer attached to the wall of your mobile home. This might be an issue.
Yeah, that's an issue.
So those are things that, yes, they need to be done with throughout the inspection period. And there's also some small things that can say, like, hey, this up there looks like there might have been a leak or whatnot. If it has been fixed and just hasn't been painted, and we have proof that has been fixed, maybe paint that before the appraiser goes out, because they're gonna be like, this is now a concern, because appraisers just pointed out they don't want to be on the hook for something, and it's just their job. So that is what I lean on to a good inspection report. And a good inspection report is longer than 3 pages.
Correct. Yes,
I've seen them
Something I
3
wanted
page
to
long.
touch on that you were just talking about, since we're talking about mobile homes and stuff like this, and we're in inspections. Polybutylene isn't end all be all, right? What I mean by you don't have to replace those things. Polybutylene works. It does what it does. If you want to move forward with insurance, I have one carrier that will actually accept polybutylene in the house, and it's not Citizens. Citizens won't even accept polybutylene.
wow.
So it's things like that, especially when we're talking about mobile homes and inspections. It's super important that we get, if it's something you're interested in, especially on the insurance side, you have to get it over right away, because if there are those things, if there is only one carrier that we accept it, most homes over 1994, most mobile homes over 1994 don't qualify for anybody but Citizens. And Citizens process it's a lengthy process to get approved through there. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is, just because you brought it up, please do not send your insurance agent your full home inspection. Please only send the 4-point and what is being requested. The insurance company and the what?
And the
wind mitt, yes. But mobile homes don't need wind mitigation, believe it or not. But on your regular home, send your wind mitigation. But yes, please don't send the full home report. You'll never get insurance if I ever look at the home report. I'll just close it and send it back to you and tell you that's too much information. Send me the 4-point.
And I'm going to touch on that too. You own, as a buyer, you bought and paid for that inspection. It gets sent to me automatically as your realtor, because I'm the one that's kind of like negotiating everything for you. If anybody asks for it, no. The answer is no. If you ask for it as a loan officer, you need pieces of it, but you don't need the whole report. You don't need the whole report. Things like that. So when I send stuff over to them, or even the listing agent to get things on the addendum, I'm literally taking snippets of the report of just what we're asking for. Like, I had one that was literally, I don't know, it was almost 30 pages or something like that. They were asking for 5 things. No big deal. They don't need the whole report. They just need this. Well, the seller kept bugging me and was like, "Oh, just send the whole report." No, just send it. It's fine. No, like again, no is a complete sentence. I'm not doing that. So, somebody's going to bother you about it. It's not an if. It's a when probably thing. No, you're not. It's your report. It is something that you bought and paid for from the inspection company. No. Greg, can you touch on why we don't need a wind mit, for manufactured homes, mobile homes?
Well, first of all, there's no attic access. Right. So you can't get up in the attic to do the wind mat. Mm-hmm. And second of all, they're built to a certain standard. Anything that was built after 1996 is built to a certain standard. You're not really looking at a wind mitigation from a perspective of the roof staying on. What you're really looking for now is a crawl space inspection instead, to make sure that the tie-down straps exist, that it's got the proper spacing of the straps, that the straps aren't all corroded. So it's really more of a concern of the home staying on the foundation when a wind event comes versus the roof.
I love that you called it wind event and not, what we all know it to be, but it's okay.
Well, wind is classified as like a regular thunderstorm. It could be anything that has causes wind damage. And depending on in your insurance, if it's a named hurricane, then that's a hurricane deductible. But if it's just like a regular thunderstorm and you only have hurricane coverage, and it falls under all other perils. So read your contract.
Thing to know. Yeah, that's a great thing to know.
Read your contract.
We have to do a hurricane thing too.
Yeah.
Ms. Robin, your take on first-time home buying and like what you're seeing and things like that for all of us.
So one of the things I want to talk about is when we're talking about these inspections and the things that we're asking for is you want to have the right realtor, because you need to, and make sure that your realtor and your loan officer are communicating, because you do not want to put too much in those addendums. Mm-hmm. What we see from the title perspective is that the lenders don't want to see each individual repair spelled out in an addendum. They'd much rather see it in the form of concessions and credits to prepaids. And so it's very, very important that you know that. What we see is that people who maybe don't do a lot of transactions with loans, they're used to a cash buyer, make this mistake of always putting too much information in those addendums. So from a title perspective, for us, it doesn't really matter title wise, but we know when we see an addendum that lists out every single repair, that when that gets sent to the loan officer and then the underwriting for the loan, that's probably going to come back and has the potential to push closing.
Yeah, which is
yes. Please modify. Yeah. So that's important, because any kind of addendums and everything, and when they have to be modified and everybody has to sign off on them, that can delay the overall closing time, because it's delaying what's happening as far as the loan. It can delay stuff as far as title is concerned. The other thing that I think is super duper important is making sure that the language in any addendum is clear. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of unclear language that goes into these addendums, and it makes it very difficult, especially when we get down to the closing table and there's people who dispute what that means. Mm-hmm. And it is not the loan officer, the title agent, or anything. We cannot be the arbiters of what that means. So we cannot decide like, okay, seller saying this meant, there was going to be $2,000 credit, but buyer saying, no, this was supposed to be more than this $2,000 credit was on top of something else. Mm-hmm. We cannot decide that. So that can put a delay in the closing. So carefully having the right real estate agent behind you to carefully word these addendums to make sure that it's not going to have an effect on closing after you have maybe issues in your inspection is super duper important. One of the things I want to touch on, go ahead, Greg.
I just want to hit on a point that Robin just made. I mean, this is such a big one for us as a home inspection company when we have to go out to do these re-inspections, and that repair addendum is pretty sloppy. If there is in fact a repair addendum in place, and this is one of our biggest pet peeves as a home inspection company, is when they're expected to do repairs, there's not a properly executed repair addendum, or if there is a properly executed repair addendum, the verbiage in it is horrible, and you're really trying to figure out what exactly is it that they're asking for. Mm-hmm. Some people will copy and paste directly from the inspection report, which is helpful for us, but other people write their own terminology. And you sit there scratching your head trying to figure it out. And listen, There are so many agents out there who do not know how to write a repair addendum. It's amazing to me that you could be in this business and you haven't been trained on these repair addendums. And the person who's going to suffer is the buyer. If there's not a proper repair addendum put in place, the buyer's going to end up stuck with these deficiencies. They've already passed their inspection period. They've put their escrow money down and they're locked in and they've got no recourse. And there's something else that I just got to touch on real quick, and I'm sorry to go off track on this one. And Robin, you can touch on this a little bit further. I don't understand why people don't put a clause in the repair addendum, a survivorship clause. It's amazing to me, and I'll explain what that is. There should be a simple clause in that repair addendum that says these repair obligations contained in this addendum shall survive expiration of the inspection period and remain binding and enforceable through closing. In other words, it doesn't matter that, okay, sellers, yeah, we understand you negotiated a 3-day inspection period, but here's what was found in that inspection period. And now you're obligated to fix them. But if they don't get fixed fast enough and we don't get back there to re-inspect them fast enough, all of a sudden the buyer's stuck with them because there's no survivorship clause in the repair addendum. And Robin, you're the legal expert. I'll leave that one to you to elaborate on further.
Yeah, so I think the issue is if the repairs are not made, then they don't close, and so that's the thing. But this is what ends up happening. There's the legality, and I always talk about this in my various classes and things and talks that I give. Is there is the legality of things, and then there is the reality of things. So you can so you have say you are a first time home buyer and you put down a deposit and you have a bad inspection and you're within the option period and you want your escrow money back. It has to be an agreement between the buyer and the seller. So if the seller says nope, even they could be 100% in the wrong when you're looking at it. Like, okay, it's the 5th day of the 7-day window. They still have to agree to it. Okay. So that means title cannot release the escrow deposit until there is a agreement signed by both parties. This is shocking to lots of realtors, lots of people, but that is the way that it rolls. Title, again, is not the arbiter or person that decides if somebody has violated the contract. So if there is no agreement between the parties, the only next thing that you can do is litigate. And so that's the same thing is, okay, sellers don't fulfill their repair addendum. It's time to close. Are the buyers backing out? Are they suing? What are they doing? And so I think what in reality, a lot of times what happens is that they're just going to go ahead and they're going to say, we want this house. We've come this far. We've spent this much money on an appraisal, on an inspection, on a survey. We're going to pursue this. And they'll just go through with it. They can say, okay, we'll go through with it, but we're still going to sue because they didn't. But okay, the repairs are $1,000. How much is it going to cost you to sue someone? So this is what I talk about, where I talk about there's the legality of things and then there's the reality of things. Is there a cost benefit analysis to litigating certain things? When we talk about the escrow deposit, I often talk to agents about what are ways that we can avoid this kind of scenario. And I always say to people, put down a smaller escrow deposit at the very beginning and then put down an additional deposit. So to make your offer look maybe more appealing, say you have the first time home buyer and they can't afford to lose out on that money. Maybe they only put down $1,000 deposit, but after that option period is done, they're willing to put down an additional $4,000 deposit because they're one step further into it because they can't lose $5,000, if that makes sense. So that may make it appealing to a seller who's looking at, I have a $3,000 upfront escrow deposit, same contract, but this one it's $1,000. But after that option period's over, they're willing to put down a little bit more. That's what people look at when they're accepting contracts, and the terms are relatively the same. And so that's something to think about because the number of realtors I have they're outside the option period. And I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I'm not the one that decides. The title company is a neutral. So you have to go to a judge, or really in the reality of the contract, you have to demand mediation, potentially go to mediation. And then if you still can't resolve it, you have to go to court. So reality and legality is most people, they might have a legal claim for undone repairs or repairs that were never completed, but are they going to pursue that? Is it worthwhile from a cost benefit analysis to do that. So I think that's something to think about.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up when we're talking about specifically the mobile homes is most lenders, so if we're talking first time home buyers, most lenders are going to want that the mobile home titles are retired. So what a lot of people do
Yes,
not
thank you.
understand, and this is a complex process,
I love
and
you.
realtors do not know about this unless they are a realtor that traditionally sells a lot of mobile homes, is that, and even people don't understand this. Your title to the land that the mobile home on is one thing, that is your deed. That there are separate titles to the actual physical mobile home. You
Is it
can
like a
tie them
vehicle?
together. Otherwise,
Like
you transfer
Correct.
two separate titles. So you have title to two things. So you can do a quick claim deed. Your mommy can sign a quick claim deed for you to take over her title or her land, and that mobile home's been on there for 40 years. But if she's never passed down the title to the mobile home, you're kind of screwed there.
Yep.
You got to figure out where these titles are.
Yeah.
The other issue is, how do I tell if my mobile home is titled with the land? A lot of times your legal description on your deed will say together with and list specific identifying information about the mobile home. But if you're buying a mobile home, and it could be a brand new mobile home, a lot of people, what they're doing right now is they're buying a piece of property and they're holding it, and then they're placing a very nice, very beautiful, brand new manufactured home on the property, and then they're coming and selling it, and the two are not attached. And if you are getting a loan, which chances are you can on a very nice new manufactured home, get a loan and get a good insurance on it because it's brand new.
Still
You're
get an
going to
inspection,
have
by
to
the way.
retire the titles, and this is something that as an agent that is something that your agent as the seller needs to know, and that is also something that the buyer's agent needs to know. If I'm representing buyers as an agent going to these mobile homes, I'm asking, is this retired? Chances are people aren't going to know the answer, but okay, can you find the mobile, do they have copies of the mobile home titles? Is there a real property sticker? Is there that RP sticker that's supposed to be displayed? These are all things that you as a layperson coming in and buying are not going to know unless you have a realtor. So when Brittany says, hey, realtors are important, this is why, because this is important stuff that realtors know about. Now, I will tell you, important to choose a qualified realtor, because not all realtors deal in mobile homes traditionally, and not all realtors know this. I had a realtor out of Tampa who has sold for years and years and years, and we helped him sell a mobile home, and it was his first time selling a mobile home, and he did not have a lot of the knowledge, and he was like, I'm shocked, because like he was very informed, but never, just that was not his market, was mobile homes and manufactured homes, and so he did not know, and we were like teaching him through the process of why this was necessary. The lender that they were working with didn't know. The loan officer. So it's important, if when you're doing this, that you need to know this. But essentially, it is preferred to retire if the manufactured home or mobile home is permanently affixed to the property with a crawl space and the tie downs and all that stuff, that you retire your separate mobile home titles so that your mobile home and the land transfer together via the deed. Otherwise, you continue to have these like titles to the manufactured home or mobile home that are like car titles, and you're doing two separate transfers, and it is very likely that something will get mixed up in in that chain of title.
Do you have to retire if it's like a double or triple wide where there's multiple serial numbers? Is
Yes,
it
you have to retire each
all three of them?
individual title. So and you have to record things with the county. It's called an affidavit of a fixture. And the problem where we struggle as title, so I'll give you our problem, is people don't have their original mobile home titles. They can't locate them, and or they don't have their real property stickers, and all of that is required to prepare the necessary affidavit to. It's an affidavit of a fixture, which essentially means that it's an affidavit from the owner saying that this property, this particular mobile home with these title numbers and these real property numbers, is affixed to the property. So that gets recorded with the county, and we have to have the original mobile home titles to do that. And then once that's recorded with the county, they have to fill out an application that then goes to the county, and that shows that it's canceled. So a lender can find out from the very beginning if it's a retired mobile home title, because there is a listing that says, hey, this title has been canceled, if it's been done properly. But one of the key things that people really struggle with and is important as a realtor asking these questions either on behalf of a buyer or if you're listing a property that's a mobile home is, do you have those original mobile home titles? Because most people have no concept of where those are.
Mm-mm.
And if you don't, we can order it. Like
Yes.
it's not a problem. Don't be scared. It's very easy. We had to do it for ours. The seller absolutely did not want to. We were buying our home and we had to order ours, and I actually don't have them, which is terrible of me. It's in an email somewhere. I don't know. But anyway, it's fixable. It's just having the knowledge
To know
what to look for. And I want to touch on something that you said, because that's an elder agent is what I call them. After they've been 10 years, I'm not there yet. But anyway, even loan officers, there's so much information for us to know. So I know agents who are 40 years in the business and they don't know everything, and they're still asking questions that they're like, I've never seen this before. 40 years in the business, and a lot of people are like, well, you should know everything, and I'm like, Lord, I'm not God. I'm not. It's impossible for us to know everything, but it is possible for us to have a team who does know a lot of stuff, and then collectively we all come together and we do these things, and then if we don't know, we ask questions.
I'm a firm believer in stay in your lane.
Right, that part.
But
Yeah.
I, as an insurance agent, like obviously I have nothing to do with the mortgage or title, but I need to know a little bit of what you guys
Yes.
do. I bill an escrow account, so I need to know where, whenever they're saying, hey, we're billing the escrow, but do I need to make a payment to you? Well, I know that title's the one that's going to cut the check once closing is done to send to the insurance company. I know if there's a payment that's not being made, I don't need to go to the mortgage company to ask where the payment is. I need to go to title, ask where the payment is. So again, everybody here, we all have overlapping things. I'm a firm believer in staying in your lane, but you have to know a little bit about
something,
each industry so we can get to the end.
I consistently preach that a lot of the questions that are asked should be asked before there's ever really any contract or anything that is going on.
Absolutely agree.
I tell agents, specifically for me, being a lawyer and a title agent, if you have something that is funky and you're about to list that and you've never done it before, call me so that you have this information before it's listed, so that when the buyer, if they have a decent agent, is asking questions through their agent about certain things, that you have the answers, because you want to have all this information before you have a contract, so that you're not dealing with this when you're in a limited window of time and trying to get everybody to the closing table on time. These are questions that should be asked and investigated before there is a contract. So, I mean, that's an easy question to ask. If you're a buyer's agent going in on a manufactured home, do they have the titles? Has this been affixed to the property? Is it transferring with the deed, or do we have to transfer the titles separately? That is an easy question to ask, as far as that's just along the lines of, hey, how old's the air conditioner, as far as I'm concerned. So those are questions that you can ask, because that is information that, one, we're going to want to know at the very beginning, because it takes time, especially for locating titles and things along those lines, locating HUD labels, locating certain things. That all takes time to accomplish, and the sooner that we know that we need to do that, the better. So
absolutely,
it's the same on our side too, with like locating permits for like repairs and stuff. So first, I wanted to touch on this anyways, because you said something about like in the appraisal process, whenever it comes to title, about them repairs and the addendums and all that stuff. The one thing that I run into once these addendums are done and the sellers or the buyers come to an agreement is, who does the repairs, right? There's certain things that a homeowner could do the repair. Most of the things the insurance company will not allow the homeowner to do, right? So something as simple as, in my electrical panel, there's a breaker missing and it's empty. Go to Lowe's, spend $1.50 on the spacer, you pop it in, take a picture, send it to me, we're good. A leaky pipe, you have to call a licensed electrician. You need to replace your water heater, it has to be a licensed electrician. Permits need to be pulled. And that's what a lot of people don't understand whenever they're trying to sell the house, of why something as simple as a water heater that's 2 pipes and a wire, why do I have to call a licensed plumber? Well, the thing is you're now passing that responsibility off to somebody else. So the insurance company wants to make sure that this is installed properly, so that way we're mitigating claims going forward, right? With a roof, they want a permit on the roof to make sure that your roof isn't going to be ripped off whenever a hurricane comes through. And people
it's funny. There's another clause that I always tell agents, sometimes if we're talking about repair addendums, Corey, there's another clause that I always tell agents to use. And guess what? To date, I don't think I've ever seen this clause used once in a repair addendum, but it's very simple, and it reads as follows. All repairs exceeding handyman services or requiring permitting under Florida law shall be performed by appropriately licensed and insured contractors.
Correct. And as the buyer, you always want somebody that is licensed to do these things, because once you sell that home, you're taking responsibility for that. For anything that happens with the home, they're not going to go back after the seller's insurance to file a claim under there, because there's no policy. They're going to go after your policy if there's a claim. And God forbid that it was done by a handyman. That stuff is usually excluded in a policy. So that's where I stand on all of this.
And again, this comes down to safety too. Like, the reason why it's so important, I mean, obviously it's so important to get a home inspection. The reason why it's so important to have a good real estate team behind you when you're buying a home is safety. Because again, like, just like we were saying, like, why would you spend all this money to not be able to put food in your house? Why are you spending all this money to buy a house that's going to fall apart the second? I mean, we've seen Money Pit. Like, the movie's hysterical, but like, it can happen. I mean, I had it happen before I became a realtor, and I had no idea that all of these things could have been prevented had I had a better agent. So this is all, again, like, this is why I do the things that I do, and I'm really trying to protect my clients and my buyers specifically by having an amazing team behind me, because this is what we do all of the time. Like, we will sit and have these conversations, and I'll learn from you guys constantly, because again, there's a wealth of information. I wanted to touch on something, and pivoting again, sorry. Out of pocket costs are huge. And that's something that, like, we need to discuss prior to, again, with loan, but also out of pocket costs they're going to come up. Things happen, whatever. When title is asking you for certain things, which I'm going to actually touch on something from that afterwards. But the biggest thing for out of pocket costs is going to be how does it work for the loan officer? And then, like, especially escrow, right? Like, you mentioned something on the last recording that we did, which was when we're doing escrow, it needs to come out of the bank account that you're going to send over your So explain that part, and then also same thing with inspections. It needs to come out of that same account. So I wanted to touch on that.
So we call escrow EMD.
Yeah, EMD.
That's what we call it, because for us, escrow is the savings account for insurance and taxes. Right. So it's always funny, but so it has to come out of your bank account, because that escrow EMD is your money that sits with title. It's already part of your cash to close, and it's going to be credited back, because you're going to see that it will say EMD or escrow deposit, $4,000, $2,000, whatever you put down, and it gets deducted from your cash to close. Now, if you didn't have that money, and your mother gave you this money, and she sent this over out of her account, now we're going to need a gift letter, because it wasn't your money. It was not your money. So we have to see 30 days of your bank statements, all pages, even blank ones, and see this is out of your, it's not pending, it's out of your account, and it goes with the EMD receipt. Title sends over saying, yep, we got your money, we good. That gets sent to the underwriter. Another thing is your appraisal. For us, that's an upfront cost. It gets credited back, but you have to prove that you paid it.
Yes.
Some underwriters are super sticklers. They want to see, because they're going to check your bank account. They want the most recent ones for your funds to close, to make sure A, you didn't spend all your money, you didn't go ham. B, you didn't have humongous deposits that we now can't trace. They will know what you had for lunch second grade. They will see. They want to see that the amount for the appraisal came out of your bank account, because it is a credit back to you, because this was your money that came out from your pocket. If it was somebody else's money, gift letter. Or, God forbid, you paid it with a credit card, well, guess what? It's not going to get credited back, because now it has added on to your debt.
Yes.
Correct.
So technically, it wasn't your money, it wasn't a gift. No, you just took a loan to pay for your appraisal. Please don't do it.
Yes,
just don't do it.
And something I want to touch on with the appraisal, again, that's a big issue on my end, is that the appraisal, you might get a mobile home, and this is mobile home specific. It's all homes kind of tend to run into this, especially in Florida. But insurance does not insure, number one, land or location. And for mobile homes, insurance is not looking at replacing your home with a brand spanking new mobile home.
That part.
So where I run into and what a lot of people don't understand on my end is how they could buy a property, for example, for $160,000, like what we're dealing with right now. We have somebody that's buying a property with a mobile home that's $160,000, but they're only being insured for $80,000 on the mobile home itself. And people in the loan side, on the underwriter side, and clients have a very, very hard time of understanding this. Mobile homes are not an appreciating asset. They're not gaining wealth through this. It's a depreciating asset, and you look at it as a car because that's kind of like how it works, right? When an insurance company is looking at insuring these things, if you've got a 1980s mobile home, we're not looking to insure it to where you can replace it with a 2026 mobile home. We're looking at replacing it with the same year, length, and width as what you currently have. And a lot of people don't understand that. So on my end of it, whenever it comes to like actually insuring the property, where I get held up, or I'm the holdup, excuse me, I'm not being held up. I'm the holdup in this entire process is because there's a lack of knowledge that mobile home replacement costs versus a block home or like a standard single family home replacement costs are done on two different valuations. A mobile home valuation is done with ACV in mind, with depreciation taken into account for you to replace again the same year, length, and width. Whereas like a standard single family block or frame home is done with the intentions of rebuilding it and indemnifying the client with replacement costs to build it back to the same style, square footage, quality of home that you have now.
Which brings me to it. This might be a dumb question, okay, but right now we can finance a single wide mobile home built June 15th, 1979, and a double wide or bigger June 15th, 1976. I wonder if that should or will actually probably be updated to one point, because how hard is it to ensure that? Because technically there are going to be no more replacements that are livable.
Correct.
To be honest, that's my thinking.
On my end of it, the way that the insurance is going to work is that they're just going to cut you a check. Right.
Here's
so
a $5 check. Go buy
right,
you something
exactly.
else.
Literally,
I'm sorry.
Literally. So
McDonald's got it.
I have one carrier right now that will take like older mobile homes and offer replacement costs back to 1980. Anything pre 1980 is all an actual cash value. Which also, to clarify in this podcast here, for mobile homes, whenever a mobile home is valued at actual cash value, whenever you guys are getting the deck page or like the underwriter's title, whoever's getting the deck page, and it says that the dwelling amount is actual cash value, should the home burn down and it be a total loss, that number is going to pay out. So if there's $80,000 listed, that full value will pay out. Where people run into, and this is why I'm not understanding on mortgage side why underwriters are such sticklers on this, because they should just know these things, but where the ACV impacts the client is in a partial loss. If there's a small fire in the kitchen and you need to replace the cabinets, it's settled at depreciation. It might be a $10,000 claim after you pay your deductible, and the insurance company is going to say, well, those are 40-year-old cabinets, so we're going to give you $3,000 and you're responsible for everything else and above that. That's where it impacts the client. But however, if what the bank is worried about, if it's a total loss, to make sure that their loan is covered, that full coverage will pay out even at an ACV value in the event of a total loss. Now, to answer your specific question as far as how they're going to replace a 1970s, because I mean, how many 1970s are just sitting out there that you can buy and put on a property? That I don't know the answer to that. But the way the process is going to work is they're going to put in a claim. The insurance company is going to say, okay, all we have are like wheels and a chassis left of this building, and we had you insured for $45,000. So here's your check minus your deductible, depending on what it is. If it's from a hurricane, obviously it's a different deductible that applies. So they're going to write you a check, and that's typically how most homeowners insurance works. Is that they're going to come out, assess it, whether it's this mobile home or single family home, come out, assess it, tell you what the damages are, write you a check, cut you a check for everything minus your deductible.
This is why I wanted my house to blow over in the hurricane.
Yeah.
Anyway, because my lot is worth a lot more than my house, actually. So, anyways, I wanted to pull back because we were talking about out-of-pocket costs.
Yes.
So I think it's really important because Ashley and I often see this when people actually make the escrow deposit about the fact that we're like, hey, this doesn't seem like these people have this money. So how are they buying this house?
Yes.
So one, aside from just the escrow deposit that has to be made, you have your appraisal. Well, you have your appraisal. You have your home inspection. Home inspection, Greg, what is the standard cost of a home inspection? Can you give us a range?
For 4-point wind mitigation or for full home inspection?
I would say for both.
The whole thing.
Yeah, well, it's really dependent on the age of the home, the square footage, how many systems, does it have more than one air conditioning system? So it's very variable. I mean, home inspections go anywhere from $360 up to over $2,000 for these bigger homes.
Right.
So there's a lot of variables. It also depends on what are they throwing in. Do they require a termite inspection? Do they want the pool inspected? Do they want to do mold testing? So
Well and septic.
Yeah, because well and septic has to be done for manufactured homes, mobile homes too. Especially if you're putting on, like, if you have your own land and you're putting on a new one, it has to be done. And then something that I want to talk about with Greg for a second, because I know, like, people can complain all they want about, like, things are more expensive. Well, okay, we go to Publix for a reason, right? Because, like, I want fresh fruit. I don't want the moldy Walmart fruit. Just gonna call it out for what it is. I want the fresh fruit from Greg and his inspections, please, because I want to be as detailed as possible, because I want my house to be safe, especially for my clients, our past clients. They're bringing in their kids. It's important. So I understand that, like, Greg may be a little bit more expensive. He's worth every single penny and then some. Like, honestly, like, probably should charge more, because it's worth every single bit of this to be able to move into your home and actually feel like, oh, I can actually breathe. And sorry that I have coffee breath. Thank you. So, like, I just need to kind of point that out. Like, that's such a big thing.
And as far as
that's a
costs
great
out of
question.
pocket with, like, inspections, to just kind of delve into your side a little bit more of what, or your question, on my end of it, if Greg comes in and he does an inspection, you pay all this money and there's deficiencies that need to be fixed, I don't necessarily need the 4.2, an updated 4-point on my end. If you're getting a new roof, like if the 4-point says your roof is bad and you're getting a new roof, I need a paid invoice and a permit.
Yep.
If it's a water heater, you get me a picture of the new water heater and a permit. You're not having to pay for extra inspections to happen. And a lot of realtors or a lot of agents, they don't know these things. And a lot of insurance agents also don't know that you don't have to get the 4-point to be quote unquote a clean 4-point. There are alternatives to certain things that we can pull. This is why it's a big deal for, like, the permitting and stuff. The other thing is like, especially during hurricane season, you get all these roofing companies that come in here and they'll say, hey, here's the cheapest roof that I can give you, but it doesn't include them pulling the permit. Or in the contract, it says that you, the client, has to go down to the county and pull the permit. This is why these things are so important, because it backs the client up, and
Please close out
and
your permit.
please get your final
Yeah.
permit.
So
Yes.
let's talk about that, because I
Thank
think
you.
it's important that Ashley brought this up.
Yes.
So for
Perfect.
certain things,
Yes, please.
permitting is not a title issue. So if you have, it is a contract issue.
Right.
So in a contract, a seller is agreeing to close out all kinds of permits. We will find out, title will find out if there are open permits. It is not, we can still close if there are open permits, and it is not our job to close them.
Correct.
So I think that's a big misconception, because a bunch of agents are like, what are we doing about these permits? Not a title issue.
Yeah.
It's
So
not,
what are
it
we
is
doing?
right. Right. Exactly. So it's like, that is an issue that you, if you are the seller agent and your seller has an open permit, you buy your sellers are guaranteeing by that contract that they are closing out that permit. So if I can notify you, hey, these permits or whatever, and we can help facilitate, but it is not a title issue. So it is not something that I am worried about clearing. What Ashley might be talking about is, right now specifically, so many people are having new work done.
Yes.
They're having a re-roof, they're doing plumbing.
Yes.
What we see is contractors will do a notice of commencement that gets filed in the public record. Okay.
But then
that notice of commencement is usually expires after a certain period of time. Could be 6 months, it's usually a year. So the contractors just leave it chilling out there. Okay. And so then the people, because they're doing this because your realtor says you need to put a roof on in order to sell your house. So we go to sell the house and there's that notice of commencement, and then we're tracking down some of these roofers. Well, some of these roofers are not, or some of these contractors they're not doing business anymore. They're hard to get a hold of. So
Solar
one of the things
panels.
that I'm asking,
That's another topic.
Yeah.
one of the things I'm
Yeah,
asking
we're just
is
talking
my
into it.
roofer or my contractor is, are you terminating that notice of commencement?
Mhm.
That should be part of their overall package, because otherwise it can cause a potential title issue.
Yeah.
Now, I will say most of the contractors, if they're a legitimate business, are really easy to get in touch with and get everything back to us, and we can help in that process and title. But when it's an issue is when someone goes out of business, somebody dies. I mean, you
Yeah.
have like a guy that's been around forever and he passes away and his family shuts down the business. Who's terminating that? Like, who has the
What are
authority?
you finding the biggest reason is that they're not terminating?
None of them terminate. Just
They
gonna be
just-
honest.
it's
They
just out there.
because they
Inspection.
figure it's going to
That's
it's
what I'm
you
saying.
know it's going to it's going to expire after a
Yeah.
period of time. So that's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
no,
it
it's-
that, so you just said the inspection, is it like the final inspection, or
Yeah.
they're just not doing any inspections?
Well, they're not closing out the permit because they're not doing the final inspection. Some of these companies, especially the larger ones, will hire like a third party company to go out and like schedule all the inspection, or that some counties will allow you to hire a private inspector to go out, and these third party companies are supposed to be taking care of it, and they never actually follow up on any of it. So then it shows up on a municipal lien report, which we provide. Now, this is what I am going to tell you, and this is something I think that's super important because it's come up with us recently. If your title company is not providing you copies of these reports, they are doing you a disservice, because then you don't know that there is a permit issue that needs to be taken care of. And we had something come up where we had a realtor and there was an unknown septic tank.
Surprise.
Unknown
Oh.
septic tank, like the people didn't know they were on
Surprise.
septic or whatever, and it had been sold multiple times and nobody knew that it was a septic tank. And all we did was, we didn't know that it was on a septic tank. We got a report and we sent it, and that's when it was seen, like, hey, this is on a septic tank. But I'm assuming that those reports were probably done in prior closings, but just never provided to anybody, so it never popped up as like, hey, and title doesn't know if it's on septic or not. Like, we don't know if that's been disclosed. It really doesn't matter to us for our title purposes. But had that title company sent the report, or had somebody asked for the report, that would have come up on said report as an issue, and would have. And when I say this, nobody knew it was on septic. I'm talking like it's 2026, going back to like 2010s. Like, it was not necessarily known that this thing was on septic. So it was just, people were just saying it, and the people don't know. So I mean, that's the thing, is you just need to be asking for these things.
Yeah.
We, as our title company, we provide them. We provide everything. We provide that and the title commitment. The number of title companies who don't, from what I understand, which I don't know why. And then also the number of people who aren't asking for it. Because that's the thing, is if the title company, maybe they don't provide it, and that's because that's one extra step they have to take. But if you have an agent, they should be, them protecting you is asking for those items and understanding what's in those items to know how this affects your overall closing. Like I said, open permits, not a title issue. I'm closing it. But
Problem for
open
me.
permit,
Yes.
problem for insurance, problem, like
Yeah, for the buyer.
well, for the buyer, because then if they go to sell it, or if there's anything else, they're sitting there open, but not my problem. So that's the thing to worry about. The other thing that I want to talk about is, sometimes there's a cost for an inspection and all that kind of stuff, and if it doesn't get closed by the seller, then to close it later on, the buyer has to then schedule the inspection and pay the cost. So when we're talking about some of these upfront costs, we're talking home inspection for sure. We're talking appraisal, also can be very expensive.
Oh yes.
Yeah, $500 to $2,000 sometimes, depending on how many times they have to go out and reinspect. Title, gonna need a survey.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
And survey is, what I can tell you is, Ashley and I, and we quote out almost every survey with multiple companies, and the cost range for a survey is absolutely, well, first of all, the surveys are going up because things are getting busier. We've seen price increases recently. And then two, the cost range for a survey can vary greatly for the same piece of property. So, and know that if you are a person who's maybe buying land with the intention of putting a manufactured home on there, that these large land surveys are very, very expensive. Or if you have yes, because they can be very intricate and things along those lines. And people are like, well, what do I need a survey for? Well, one, you need to know the bounds of your property. And sometimes, if your property has been it was a large family property that has been chunked up. This is really specific to Polk County and more rural
Oh my
counties.
God.
Like I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about it, let's talk Polk
Yeah.
County here.
Yeah.
Hey, my family, my granddad owned this whole piece of land. Then he broke it up into this, and then my grandpa bought this piece from his uncle, and put the land back together. That is why you need to have a freaking survey, because they've chunked it all up, and we need to figure out what's right, so that when you're passing this to other
You know what you're
people,
buying.
you need to
Yes,
know,
you need to know
right?
exactly what you're buying.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you might end up
And
with
where
2
you're buying.
acres in the middle of your property that don't belong to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or when they plop mobile homes anywhere,
Mhm.
now the mobile homes are overlapping parcels.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the parcels
That part.
aren't combined.
Yep.
Well, now we have crap show.
Yep.
And the out of pocket costs, like for me, I personally tell title, unless they have a survey they can use by the seller, which sometimes you can't use them.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
different ones. I tell them, let me order the appraisal. Once the appraisal comes back, once we're good, then I tell title, okay,
Yes.
We
Order
try
the
to do
survey.
that. I will tell you, because we try to do that because we
Yes.
don't want to have an appraisal come back. But
Mhm.
the issue is, one, not everybody always communicates with title. We're like the redheaded stepchild over here
Which
that
I
nobody
hate.
wants to
Yeah.
talk to.
And you
Yeah.
gotta talk
You
with
have
each
everybody
other.
has to
Talk to
communicate,
everybody.
okay?
Put
And
us on
then
the whole
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
I don't care if I
Right.
need to skip the
And
email.
then
Yeah, the whole thing.
also
Just reply.
the other
Yeah.
thing is, I don't think a lot of people understand what title does and what the value of title is and why it is necessary. And when it comes, and then also sometimes I will tell you what Ashley and I always joke about is, we're the ones that are doing the actual closing and have to order a lot of the stuff necessary for
Yes.
closing, and we're the last one to find out when people want to move up the closing. I'm like, they're like, hey, yeah, we're moving up the closing to this date. And I'm
Tomorrow,
like, okay,
we're like,
ooh, all
The
right.
last day
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
of the month.
Well, if
Yes.
you're the
Around
last one, I'm
lunch.
definitely the
Can
last
we
one.
close
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, no. We were supposed to close 15th, and now we want to move it up to May 1st. And I'm like, oh, okay.
They're like, cool beans.
And they're like rushing. Everybody's rushing
Yeah.
because it's the loan officer's like cousin, so they're rushing through all the appraisals, and she's pushing through all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but I still have to get a survey. I have to do all this, and
Exactly.
it ain't my cousin, and I don't have that to be
Yeah.
able to rush this all through. So we try to plan it out as best we can in line with the appraisal. One, we have to know what's going on with the appraisal.
Exactly.
Two, if you're pushing through the appraisal, the survey might not be able to be pushed through the same way, and so you need to realize that.
Exactly.
And the survey is 100% necessary, because there are certain things that happen, like people, we had one where there was an encroachment on something that we found out about. My mom actually recently bought a house. She paid cash for the house. She opted not to have a survey. She didn't, because you don't have to have a survey if you pay cash.
Yeah.
She went and she wanted to do she's in a like a HOA type community, or she lives in the villages, y'all. So she's there.
Yes.
You have to get approval for anything you want to do in your yard.
Yes.
And she went to go, and she had this like beautiful idea. She bought all this stuff, only to find out that she has a 10-foot easement from a wall that is in her backyard, so she couldn't do any of the stuff that she wanted to. And she's like, I shouldn't have gotten a survey. And I'm like, I asked you.
Yeah.
As
You
your
were
daughter,
rolling your
right?
eyes.
So
Yeah.
she's like, but people don't want to pay that additional expense.
Yeah.
So I just want to have, because we're talking about first-time home buyers here, out-of-pocket costs up front before you even close on the house. You're looking at I'd say 500 to 2,000 for an inspection. You're looking at 500 to 2,000 for an appraisal. The cost of a survey, the cheapest one we see is $385.
Yes.
But it depends on the size of the property too. If you're buying 5 acres, you're looking at a much more significant survey, $1,200, $1,500. So
Or
these
if
are all
there's a bunch
things,
of sheds on there.
right?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I had to get a survey, another survey. I got one done when I bought my house. Okay. Now the abandoned house next to me, the people from New York, they decided they're gonna be moving down back here, and they figured where my horse pasture fence is where my property line is. Oh, honey, no, I put that 10 feet away from my property line. You know what they did? They cut all my damn trees down. They cut all my damn trees down. I was like, I walked out there. I was a very unhappy camper because no, my pasture don't have no sun anymore, and they don't like grass, so they. Not kidding, you mowed it down to the dirt. It's like Joe Dirt taking freaking donuts out there. And I'm like, so what? I was like, you're in my yard. And she goes, no, your fence is over there. I was like, no shit, honey.
Yeah.
I put that fence on there 10 feet away from my property line. I had to pay for a survey, and I couldn't just do.
No, you have
I
to do
have
everything.
I have
Yeah.
I have more than 4 or 5 sheds, and then also I built the stables and the whole 9 years. Oh, this poor guy was out there all day, and it cost me over $1,000. And I only have 2 acres, only. But
that's the same thing that happens with
Yeah.
Greg too. Is that
Yeah.
whenever we're looking at these houses and they have the shed, like the garage is one thing, but if it has the shed and then it has the this, that, the other thing. I have a client who bought 10 acres, and it's the house, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the back.
Yeah.
All of that stuff needs to be checked out. And then when you're talking FHA and VA loans, VA specifically,
the appraisers will look in every shed. They do. They do. I had to, when I refinanced, I told the appraiser, I was like, listen, I swear I'm not weird. I do cosplay, I do charity. I have a whole room full of costumes and wigs. And also a whole shed of all props and whatnot. I swear. Okay.
But they have to look at everything. And then too, like talking about an extra cost, like so for FHA we need to look at the sheds and things like that. So that's an extra cost from him. That's an extra cost from the appraiser. We're looking for termites, we're looking for mold, we're looking for all of these things.
Everything.
Like, so yeah, it's very important for you to understand that like we're not trying to just tack on things for fun. Like this isn't, that's not our goal, right? Like our goal is again to protect you and to make sure that you understand like what's going on in your yard. Answer this one for me. So when we do surveys and stuff, like I know we have gopher tortoises and a couple other creatures in our area that like are protected. A survey kind of shows you that too, right?
And a survey, it depends on the type of survey that you get. So there are levels of surveys,
right?
And so we order just what is necessary for title, like so, and that is like the most basic. Right. But we will tell people, hey, if you're planning on putting up a pool, if you're putting up other outbuildings or anything like that, or if you're using this for a survey as something beyond just a standard, like what they call Alta survey, you need to call and find out, because it depends on the survey that you have. So some surveys include more, and frankly, I'm not a survey expert to even know what they are, but we at least have enough knowledge of surveys to say, hey, if you're planning on doing additional work on this property, then you might want to call and get a different survey than what we are going to order for you. If someone indicates to me, I'm putting a pool in on this place, I'm going to tell them, hey, go and talk to the surveyor and find out which survey is appropriate, because you can potentially use this again in the future. And so that's what we tell people. But again, we choose the cheapest option for what is going to accomplish our goal for title. Those other surveys do cost more money and can be more involved depending on what's going on because of what they do in that process. So bottom line for the first time home buyer is that there are these out-of-pocket expenses that you need to be prepared for before the closing. You can't just have your cash to close. You need to have this money available beforehand and not be surprised about it. The other thing that I cannot stress enough, and I'm sure that Sarah's gonna just be like, yes, please, God, is the number of escrow deposits that we get in a money order.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, how do you trace this? How does this has got to make it super complex for your lender. It makes it very complex for us. I mean, we really have a policy that we do not accept money order. But sometimes the agents still just show up with them, and it is not a good thing for us. It's not a good thing if somebody's getting a loan. So people need to be prepared to that they are going. And the other thing, and I'm just going to say this, when people are buying a house and they think that they're not going to miss any work while they're buying this house, you are going to miss work. You're going to have to take time off. So if you don't have any money available before closing and you don't have any PTO, now's not the time. Wait a month or two, because you're going to have to take off work. I can't close you at 7 p.m. You know what I mean? You are going to have to probably go to the bank and send a wire. You can't Zelle me your escrow deposit.
Or ACH.
Right.
ACH.
We don't accept.
You cannot. I tell my clients that, try to do and I always said it too, wire. I try to have my clear to close and a balance city 48 hours minimum before closing. I hate squishing in. Cool, we're clear to close today. We're closing this tomorrow, y'all. It is 3 p.m. Good luck. We want to close in the morning. I absolutely hate that. I rather
It's
pay out
almost
of
impossible.
I rather pay out of my pocket for rate extension for at least 2 more days.
Yep.
Okay, versus having to do. First off, it is not a great feeling for the borrower. They have to no rush around.
Yep.
Title's gonna be stressed.
Yeah.
It's just so much for error, and I
Yeah.
want to look over
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Absolutely hate it. Like
Yep.
I generally don't like people. I love everybody, but I don't like it. And I swear I don't hate title that much.
Yeah.
That I will be like, cool beans. It's the last day of the month. You better close my crap so I get paid. Which, luckily with Nexa, I don't have to do that. But I know a lot of other mortgage companies. That's why the last day of the month is the busiest.
Yes.
Right.
And if you know that you are going to close off the last day of the month,
Which we don't want to.
for the
Nope.
No Fridays.
Yes,
No Fridays.
no
No last
Mondays.
day of the
no,
month.
come on.
Yeah. Yep.
For
And
that-
Mondays are questionable.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Don't like Mondays.
For realtors, listing agents, and whatnot, just plan accordingly.
Yeah.
And for realtors, you'll be there all day.
Yeah.
You'll be there all day. Don't sit there waiting for your check to be cut, because not only does have everybody sign, title has to send everything to the lender,
Yes.
to the
And then it still has to be
closer.
pre-approved.
And guess what? The
Pre-approved,
closer ain't gonna sit there and go like, "Oh, this is my only closing for
That part,
today.
yeah.
Let me look over this within the next, just minute and give them the thumbs up." And
Yeah.
I have a lot of lenders which already have wired their funds before, but if this is rushed, then they have to wait for funding authorization. That's one thing, because I've had newer realtors and I have seasoned realtors literally text me, like, "Hey, we're going into closing. When's my check ready?" I don't know.
I will tell you
Yeah.
that is so funny to me,
I
because
don't know.
literally I will not hear from a realtor the whole time, but when that
When
check comes
is my
due,
check
oh,
ready?
it's time.
Yep,
It's time.
it's
When's
time.
my
So
check
I
ready?
mean, the thing is it's for, if we're directing this podcast
Mhm.
towards first time home
Yeah.
buyers, is it's choosing the right person
Yeah.
and choosing someone that's going to give you some of this information up front that's real. So first time home buyers, there are costs going to be outside of closing. You are going to have to figure out how to send a wire or have a physical check, and you are probably going to have to take off time in this process, whatever that
Definitely.
means,
Yep.
whatever that looks like. If it means to attend the inspection, if it means to attend the closing, and trying to schedule this like on your lunch break or at 4
Please
p.m.
don't.
You're limiting what we can do, and we don't want to put you in a position where you're getting in trouble with work because we can't accomplish what we need to accomplish in a certain time frame. And when we're doing the 4 o'clock closing, because that's, you're a teacher and you have to get out, that 4 o'clock closing doesn't work, because if there's any issues, there's nobody at the lender to really deal with things. They're, depending on who you use, they're a big company. So if they leave at 5 o'clock, I don't know if I have funding approval. And do you get the keys without funding approval?
Don't.
You don't. So it's better to plan to take off the time, to plan to have checks, and or that you're going to have to take off time to go to the bank during bank hours to wire funds.
And touching on that part, sorry. Bank, specifically Bank of America, only has like, I don't know, an hour and a half span of when you can actually wire. And they'll tell you have to schedule it in advance. So like I've had somebody who we didn't close on the day of closing because they decided to wait last minute. They couldn't do it, and then they had to wait 3 days for the Bank of America appointment.
To send it depends on how big your wire is.
That part.
So I always say, call your bank.
Yep.
Ask
we know
how
we're gonna
long
do
it
this
will
stuff.
take, because yes, you may have sent the wire, but
they sent it.
I will tell you,
exactly.
I've had that before. My
It
favorite
might take.
story is we were
Mid-Florida.
receiving, it was our very first deal at the title company that we opened, and we were receiving a gift wire. And when I tell you, from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., they're like, "Do you have the wire? Do you have the wire?" I got 20 phone calls that day. Never had the wire. Okay. I am, that weekend, one of my very good friends is getting married, and she's having her bachelorette party. And I am driving from Polk County to Sarasota for this bachelorette pad, like whatever. And I'm in a Walmart buying my Diet Coke and my glow sticks for this party. And I get a call. It's after 5, mind you.
Do
And
you have the wire?
It is the bank confirming my wire instructions.
Oh,
my
no.
God.
This is a Friday, so I'm not getting that wire till Monday. And they're insisting they sent the wire, they sent the wire, they sent the wire. And because this is Ashley and I's like literally very first closing that we did, this was like an experience we didn't have. And I said, Ashley, they're telling them they're sending them the wire, but they have to get approval somewhere else, and it's not actually going out. So like that's what people need to understand, and
Yes.
people
Yes.
don't. I had one the other day where the guy sent a wire. He was sitting in the bank waiting for us to get it. It was Wells Fargo. Sitting in Wells Fargo, and the bank manager at Wells Fargo, I'm like, hey, is there a Fed wire number? And he's like, there's no such thing as a Fed
What?
wire number. I've been in banking for 30 years. Well, the guy inside the bank doesn't know about that.
Okay.
They send
Great.
it to their
Yeah.
internal wire
Yeah.
room. Like, hate to
Yeah.
say that, but I
Yeah,
feel like you should
yeah,
know about
you should
that.
know
But
that.
like, it was like a big thing because this guy was like a nervous guy. Like he was nervous about this whole closing and wanted it to be on top of everything and whatever. His initial wire came very quickly because he was able to send it online. This amount was too large, had to go into the branch. And then they're like, yeah, we have this transaction number, and we have nothing. So finally, I was like, there is a Fed wire number. If you want to find out where this is, they can track it. You need to call the wire room. And sure enough, like there was a Fed wire number. That is a thing. So, but people, this is something that we don't, I've probably sent maybe 10 wires in my life. So if you're not familiar with it, don't just bank on that, oh, I'm going to be able to do this or it's going to be really easy, because you need to know the processes and you need to plan. And again, you need to plan to go to the bank, and that means you probably need to plan to take off work.
Changing.
Because
Like it's longer,
Yeah.
maybe you sent a wire last 2-3 years ago when you bought your other house. It's
It-
different.
It
is.
changes.
It is a lot
Bank of
different.
America, I'm just going to tell y'all, we warn everybody that is getting money. I bank with Bank of America, but like this is something that has developed here in the past like 6 months. If I send a Bank of America wire, it doesn't matter what time of day I sent it, you're not getting it until the next day at 9 a.m. You're not. So if I have a seller that's paranoid that their money is missing, like if I see that they have Bank of America, I'm sitting in the closing telling them, look, you are not going to see, if you don't have it tomorrow at 9 a.m., please call me, because before then you're not going to get it, and it doesn't matter how early I send it. I said I've tested this on myself because I've sent myself a Bank of America, like a wire to Bank of America, and I said I've tested it where I've sent it early and late in the day. It doesn't matter. It is not, and they're not telling you that on their website, because I went to look to see if their policy has changed. Yeah, it's like they have to, their wire room is open from 9 a.m. till this time. And so they'll apply it, but it's not applying till the next day. So I think that's going to result in probably a lawsuit for Bank of America. That's me personally, because I think that they all do their shady stuff. But that's something that you need to be aware of. Or you need to be aware of, okay, well, Bank of America, you can send wires online, but it's not necessarily instant. So you need to know that. And so this is all calling and planning in advance, and not just waiting to the last minute, and knowing, and I'm just going to keep repeating this, you are going to have to take off work. Okay? Because the number of people who I'm like, you're buying a house, this is like the most important purchase of your life, but they don't plan to have to take off some time from work. And it's just like, please plan for that. It's going to happen.
And if they know that they absolutely can't, communicate that with title. Because guess what? Title can get your mobile notary.
Yes.
But they have to know, not 5 minutes before.
Right.
Not 5 minutes before. If you absolutely know you can't take off time or whatever, let title know. Let them know, because they can accommodate. But if they don't know, they can't help you. That's just the thing of it. And again, first-time home buyers, actually, doesn't matter if you're first-time home buyer, if this is the 4th, 5th house you're buying.
Because it changes.
Yes,
that's the other thing is everyone. The number
So
of people
much.
I have say that like, oh, I never had to do this before. It changes year to year. It has changed every single time. They add new forms. There's new laws.
New
There's new terms. There's new everything. And sometimes maybe you've never experienced. There's a law that deals with a certain situation, and you've just never experienced that particular situation. The one thing that I can think of that comes to the top of my mind is FERPTA, foreign sellers. We had a deal, and the person was very like upset about this, and they're like, I've never heard of this, and I have all this experience, and I'm like, look, that's because it's really not all that common unless you are. I don't think it's common for our market, right? It's more common in larger cities. I'd say it's pretty common in Orlando that there's foreign sellers and stuff like that. Miami, but in our market, so you can have an agent who has been an agent for 25 years and never done a FERPTA transaction. That doesn't, just because you've never done it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And just because you've done it, I was in title when I was in high school and in college, and now I'm in title as a an attorney that's been practicing for and been out of school for 15 years. It has changed drastically from then to now as far as the forms, the laws, and what's necessary. So just because it's something new to you doesn't mean that it's something that, you can't just rely that it's going to be the same every single time you go in there.
I'll go and touch base before we move on or anything. The mobile notary.
Mm.
We have bulletins out where you cannot use your own notary to sign closing documents.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have to use our own.
Yes, yes.
And a lot of people, I think, are like, oh, my friend's a notary. You just send me the paperwork and I'll have it.
That's not how it works.
No.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Because fraud is rampant.
Yes.
So, like, and being on the sell side,
There's seller
to
impersonation. There are deep fake videos. So
Oh my
when it
God.
comes down to it, when people are like,
Do
hey,
mail
I
away.
want to do, I want to do this, and you just send it. Like, I'm going to tell you, I've done that before. I worked in an office as a lawyer where I had access to a notary, and they just sent me the paperwork and I sent it back. That was years ago. Things have changed.
Yes.
So now we cannot just send you the paperwork and you go to any notary to fill it out, specifically as a seller, because they could say, hey, you're this person that owns this property when you actually are not, because it's your friend or your partner that went and got the notary, and we don't know that they're scamming yet. Okay. So we have vetted notary companies that we work with, that we send out, that have make sure that their notaries are carrying additional insurance besides what is the minimum requirement. And they also make it very convenient, so we don't have issues with the paperwork. They do this on a daily basis, so it's not you thinking, oh, I don't need to sign this part.
Right.
And the number of people who just kind of give us a hard time about something like that, it's like, you have to work with us here, and it's all protection for you. Like, there is a reason for this. One of the other things that Ashley and I deal with, because we are a title company in Polk County that is a little bit more technologically advanced maybe than others, is we have a secure portal where we send our wire instructions in the secure portal. And people want us to, can you text them to me? Can you email them to me? Can you do this to me? And I bottom line, no, I can't. I'm sorry. Like, you need to, you need to do this. And the agents that give me a hard time about it really kind of frustrates me, because it's like, you're telling me you haven't heard these horror stories. Like, you should be encouraging these people to get into that portal. And if you're working with people who are really not tech savvy, then maybe you should be meeting up with them to get into the portal to do this. Like, I hate to say that. No, it's not every single thing, but there are very certain things. It's just like, why are you doing this? The other thing is, with these agents, some of these agents, it's, send me the wire instructions so I can send them to my buyer. Well, okay, I potentially can send at least an encrypted email. I prefer not to. I prefer to go through my portal, but I do have encrypted email. If I send an encrypted email to an agent and then she just takes that and forwards it to her client, her email can get hacked. And
or
that's how the money goes missing.
Screenshot.
Right, screenshots and all this stuff. Like, I'm not doing that. Please give me your client's contact information. I will get them in this portal. And if you are complaining to them about how you don't like the portal either, you're doing them a disservice. You know what I'm saying? By saying, I don't like, I get it. It's another thing that you have to remember or whatever, but download an app for the 30 days that you're going through this closing so you can make sure that your money doesn't get stolen, because there's been people who are
last week to somebody I know.
Exactly.
I want to just touch on that, and then we'll end this out, because we talk a lot, and I like it. So when I, as your realtor, tell you, do not talk to anybody that I have not sent to you, I mean it for a reason. And that's exactly why, because I literally just had an agent who posted about her buyer can't close on the house at all because they lost all of their money because they got hacked. So when I tell you that I'm going to send you to Ashley and Robin, here is their email, here is their face, here is their information. I'm sending you to Corey. Here's his face. Here's Sarah's face. Here's Greg's face. This is who you're looking for. I send you videos of myself saying, hi, this is what I look like. I'm not a robot. I'm not a deep fake. I do that on purpose because I do not want, again, safety is my biggest concern. This is why my team is who they are. I am not going to put you in a predicament, and I'm not going to do any of that to you. So this is, again, I cannot stress it enough. Please be safe. I don't care if you don't use me as a realtor. Please make sure that your realtor does care about your safety as much as I do, maybe. But again, like, do not talk to anybody who who you have not been told to by your realtor at all. If they're off for whatever reason and somebody on their team is going to message you, which has happened, and I have cussed somebody out before because you didn't tell me as title, not you guys, but you didn't tell me as title who was messaging my client, who's calling my client, and I will rip that contract out so damn fast. Like, I'm not doing that. So please understand that, like, we say all of these things to protect you, not scare you, but to protect you. And I want to just end on that because it's very, very important. So thank you all for doing this. And I'm sorry we talked a lot, but I'm not sorry because we needed to get the conversation out. And this is part of the process of buying your home for the first time, because, or even the third time, but 7 years ago, because it's a lot of information. So thank you all. And we'll see you real soon. Bye. You want to say bye, Greg?
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.